Hello everyone, it's Annie and Jacob again.
Hello!
And we are here to talk to you today about some books from Enchanted Lion.
Yeah.
Enchanted Lion is an independent publisher based in Brooklyn, and they publish extremely beautiful books, many of them in translation. And we are going to talk about some new ones and an old favorite.
Yeah.
The first one I want to talk about is Chiri and Chira Under the Sea. This is the newest entry in a series about Chiri and Chira.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are now 5 of them. They are all set in different environments. So the first one, the girls go on a little bike ride through the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Gender is not important. Anyway, they go on a little bike ride through the forest and encounter different animals, and there's kind of a little bit of a formula to them, and it's delightful. It's there's sort of a wish fulfillment thing happening. I mean, if you think about all the things you would want to do as a little kid on a bike.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, go have a refreshment at this place where the chairs are perfect for you, and there are all these cute animals that serve you, and then get back on your bike and like go sit somewhere beautiful, and then go have someone give you candy, and maybe that someone is a lizard who lives in a thing. And so in this one, they go through this tunnel, and they end up magically under the sea. And they go to a sea cafe. So, so Chiri goes on the couch, and Chira goes on the pearl pull-out, and they have their sea spray parfait and their marine soda jelly, and then they, go hang out at the theater, and they sit with the squids.
Oh, it's with
the little squids.
Adorable squids.
So the formula is something that, take my word for it, little kids do not get sick of. The illustrations are beautiful. It can become kind of a collect them all thing. I'm telling you this because my 7-year-old is super into this, and we have not quite collected them all, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
But they are all really beautiful, and they seek to encourage a sense of wonder in the natural world, and I think do so really effectively.
That's very nice.
And they're just so pretty.
They are gorgeous. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's Chiri and Chira.
Excellent.
So I'm going to talk about Ariba, an old tale about new shoes. This one is a little older. Two things I really like about it right off the bat. I love the art style. Very colorful. It has this kind of mesh of like partly paper cutout, partly watercolor splotches. A lot of interesting things going on. The use of, here you have a real photograph hung on a wall next to various art styles of other photographs. Just a lot of interesting details and changing of styles, even in a particular frame. The story starts with kid Marcus. He has just gotten a brand new pair of shoes, and they're the best shoes in the world. He can jump really high, they light up in the dark. He loves the shoes, he will wear them every day for as long as he lives. He then goes to his grandfather, and his grandfather's like, that's a nice new pair of shoes. It reminds me of a pair of shoes, reminds me of a story about these old shoes, about another kid who decides he gets a new pair of shoes. And but these shoes, it's nice to see the little differences, whereas the kid in the present, Marcus, gets shoes that light up and are just his size. Reba gets shoes that are 2 sizes too big because he has to grow into them, because then they'll last longer. They have all kinds of adventures together, and then eventually Reba moves to the city, and he decides that these shoes are not city life shoes. He needs to chuck them out, and every time he gets rid of them, people are like, oh, these are Ariba's special shoes. We have to give him his shoes back. So they leave him on his doorstep. He comes out the next morning and is like, my shoes are back? What? No, go be free.
A bad penny.
Exactly. So eventually it comes to a head, and the shoes do come back. And
is he wearing Crocs when they're trying to give him his shoes back?
Yes. When he has the shoes back for the final time, he is wearing Crocs. It comes back to a little breaking, a little pseudo meta narrative ending, where the story was, of course, related to the grandfather, because you can see the grandfather here with his shoes.
They're hanging out
and
on the roof.
They're hanging out on the roof, talking about their shoes. And the final line, Marcus loves the story, And he's just like, I'm so happy they came back. After all, I really like being with you on Sundays. We always have the most fantastic time together. He says that to his grandfather. So it's a lovely little, like, layered meta-narrative. Yeah, good story. Check it out. Ages probably... Four and up. It's a good read, too. It's very nice. Very sweet.
I am going to talk now about a nonfiction picture book about Keith Haring. And Keith Haring is such a great subject for a picture book for kids.
Absolutely.
Because his art is so accessible.
Yeah. I was going to say, and some of our viewers may not know the name, but you know his art because you've seen it.
Yeah.
It was on Sesame Street.
Hello? Telephone!
I hadn't known that he worked with children so much.
Oh.
But he did. So I now that you mentioned the Sesame Street stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally remember that. But when I was watching Sesame Street, I wasn't thinking about Keith Haring. I just was like, cool art,
cool art.
But you know, when I was in high school and college, you're like, oh yes, we know that this is Keith Haring and this is part of you know. My son, who is 11, loves Keith Haring, and his friends love Keith Haring, and so when I brought this home, I was like, hey, dude, what do you think?
Yeah.
And it got the Jack Seal of Approval.
Excellent.
So, Matthew Burgess has previously written a biography of E.E. Cummings, also for Enchanted Lion, and he is just so good at this. He writes a life that is interesting and relevant. The pacing is exactly right. It's approachable and interesting. Josh Cochran, I think, does such a beautiful job. He gets the line right. I mean, it's so clear that I think his illustration style speaks to Keith Haring's art really well, without imitating it.
Which is something, I mean, in previously unrecorded just conversations we've had, we talked about this a lot when picture books take on the art, the style of a particular artist to do a bibliography or a biopic on them. What constitutes? I feel like it has to be close enough to be recognizable, but just doing a scene for scene reshoot is just not.
It wouldn't be great if it just looked like Keith Haring illustrated the book, but it's really good if Keith Haring's art fits into the book and looks like it belongs there. Like that.
Like that.
It's just perfect. It talks about his life and his work. It talks about his work with children. There's such a joyfulness to it.
Yeah.
And again, he's intentionally such an approachable artist. He wanted art to be for everyone.
Yeah.
He wanted people to feel like they could find a way in. And of course, you know, this is happening in the early 80s after, 20 years of conceptualism where people are like, I don't know what that stuff is about. But it talks about, because it talks about his life, it talks very frankly about how when he found out he had AIDS, he had to figure out how to move forward with that devastating diagnosis. And so you get this sort of relatively quiet page, and then you get him moving back into life. It's beautifully and lovingly done. The back matter is so appropriate and joyful and appreciative, and it's just exactly what I want to see kids see about art. You know, this is something that comes from can come from a place of love and joy, and it can be energetic, and it can be what you need it to be,
absolutely.
and it can create community. But like basically, just feel free to make some art.
Yeah, just draw on some walls.
Yeah, and it of course starts with his mom saying, just don't draw on the walls. So of course he becomes a muralist. But
yes.
Joyfulness
Yes.
is a good thing.
This new one from also Enchanted Lion. It's called When You Look Up.
It's so weird. And great.
It is a weird. It's a buckle in, everybody.
It's
this
a
is
weird
what we
one.
say. It's a weird one.
In the best possible sense.
In the
we
best
like,
possible
we
way.
like weird things.
Trust me. Let's yeah.
These are our people.
First off, end papers. They're great.
Yeah, that's nice.
Look at it. Look at it. Without its just jacket on, it's just so nice.
It's such a
It's great.
beautiful object.
It is. They put work into it, and also I will point out that there is no. This might also throw some people. There's not a blurb. There is not a bibliography. It is so minimalistic. There is no information whatsoever on the jacket.
One thing that I want to say about Enchanted Lion is that they do what is best for the book. So Cheery and Cheera is pretty straightforward, right? It's an unusual trim size, but under the dust jacket, it looks the same.
And also the layout of it actually feels like a side-scrolling. Like it feels like one of those like old-timey, you turn the crank.
Well, and it's perfect for the format of the book, right? Because they're going on a journey.
They're going on a journey from left to right, and it's
totally makes sense.
It fits the theme. And then you have whereas
and this,
with
no dust jacket, big padded cover,
the textual
with spot gloss on all the lines. It's fancy.
So. A couple things I enjoyed about the artwork in this. I'm going to nerd out about it a little bit. So essentially, it's a story of a kid who is moved with his mom to a big lonely house away from all his friends. The book opens with him saying, "All my friends exist in my phone now." The fact that the child is portrayed as certain objects, not all objects, certain objects are enormous. Like they have this roll top desk that he discovers, and he's literally climbing up into the roll top. And
he's pretty cranky to start out because he's like, why does this stupid desk tape up my entire room?
I need it starts off and it feels a little like kids on their phones, get out and play more, but that's not really what this is about by any means. But he finds this journal, and it's a very odd journal. This is where, it's not like this, but it reminded me of, in order, House of Leaves, Haunting at Hill House, and like, but not like that.
Just to be clear, we're not advocating that you purchase horror.
No, not at all.
Vein.
Not at all for this age group. Just saying that's kind of what did it mean?
I mean, purchase horror if you want. I could say all the John Belair's books in the world. I'd be delighted. But this is not that book.
But this is not that. But that's just what it immediately kind of gives. It has a haunted feel, I suppose, or a ghost story feel. That might be more appropriate. A ghost story feel.
Well, and I think it is a haunting of a kind.
It is in a way, absolutely. So he reads and when it switches to the journal he found, it is such a different style. It's very wonderful. It's very clear. It's paper cutouts, actual paper cutouts arranged and illustrated. He's not sure what the stories mean. They take on a surreal quality. The first one's about a vase breaking, and the vase becomes an enormous monster that chases the rabbit around before becoming a beautiful bird. So they have this very strange. And at first you're like, oh, I don't really know what that means or what that has to do with anything, and neither does our protagonist. But later he comes to realize that these stories reflect real things that he sees in and around town, the history of the building, the history of who lived in the house, and his new home. The journal entries are melancholy in tone, but when he discovers, after he pieces the story, all the stories together of this person's life, and eventually through it finds the man who wrote the stories at an old nursing home. I don't know how to describe it without getting too much into detail, but let's just say that there's a very poignant little got me in the gut moment between the dual storytelling within the journals and the actual real life story. It's a good story about finding yourself and finding others, if you want to blurb it.
It's also I think a really nice And there are lots of books that I like that do this, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a really nice meditation on the power of art and self-expression
Yes.
as a way to communicate.
Yes.
And I was so impressed by the way that the 3 different art styles are so different.
Yes, absolutely.
And, you know, it's very clear, but also communicate together so well. And
Yeah.
it never it manages to be cohesive while including all of those things.
Absolutely. And when they start to overlap, it really is like a great use of your medium when you can visually communicate so many different like crossing of paths
Yeah.
with such drastically different art styles. So if you'd like to find any more Enchanted Lion books, you can do so on our website. Just search Enchanted Lion in labyrinthbooks.com. To order curbside, I should mention you should order by calling the store 11 to 4, Tuesday through Saturday. You can order also online for curbside by emailing this address right here.
Thanks for being with us again, and we will be back soon to talk about more books.
Yeah.
I'm glad they keep making more. It's nice that they keep making more.
They do. They are still making books.
Yes.
We haven't stopped yet.
No, they keep coming.
Yeah. So keep checking it out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.